Hi, good evening, Nina. How are you? Hi.
I'm here, don't worry, and I'm ready to start.
Right, good. Okay, let me welcome. We are picking up the participants. We have more than 300 even now. But anyway, we have a small formal proceedings before we start your presentation, so we'll go with them. Well, once again, welcome to the 6-day workshop, and we are into the third day now. We had 2 sessions, and if anybody missed the last 2 sessions, the video is available in our social media, so you'll be able to follow them. And today's session is also in YouTube and Facebook. It's going live. So that's another news for everybody. So the live streaming has already started. So anybody who's going to miss the Zoom meeting, you'll be able to join, or rather you can follow our webinar through the 2 social media channels, YouTube and the Facebook. So today is a sort of a different topic. We are into the real the climate change, energy efficiency, and real engineering stuff from today. The last 2 was mainly focusing on the current burning issues of the world, and mainly some of the things which are directly related to the Sri Lankan scenario. So we have the speaker today, Nina. She's one of my very good old friends. So I'm very sure this will be a very interactive session. But as a formal start, we normally went with a small introduction on our project BECC, which is funded by the European Union, and that was going into the 3rd year now. Yesterday also I clearly stated that is not an NGO or rather INGO. It's a project joined with 16 universities, 7 countries. We are trying to disseminate the knowledge on climate change and energy efficiency. That is what we are doing. So the idea is not to create new knowledge, but to disseminate, because we are with a lot of knowledge. Sometimes it is individually, sometimes as universities, sometimes as the countries, but we are trying to join together and try to share our experience and the knowledge, and educate or rather transfer this knowledge to worldwide through some online the teaching platform. So that is what we are doing with MOOC, but we'll spend 3 minutes to see what is BECC is. Yes.
Every year, thousands of projects are submitted by organizations across Europe in order to receive financial support from the Erasmus program. For this reason, the Commission has set up a transparent evaluation process that aims at providing grants for the best projects. Project BECC is one of the co-funded programs by the Erasmus+. Word BECC stands for Integrating Education with Consumer Behavior Relevant to Energy Efficiency and Climate Change at the Universities of Russia, Sri Lanka. and Bangladesh. This project, designed after identifying the vital importance of the social and economic development of Russia, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. These regions distinguish education in engineering and engineering trends. We are a team that represents 14 universities from 7 countries, grouped as 4 program countries and 10 partner countries. We as a team ensure a proper geographical and knowledge balance, also the diversity, because the built environment practices and necessary solutions differ from region to region. The universities of the partner countries are willing to introduce new adapted MOOCs to the different cycles of the built environment and related study programs. All partner universities will participate in the upgrading of BSc, MSc and PhD study programs. The main objective of Project 𝓵𝓪 is to upgrade the curricula with 16 new harmonized, multidisciplinary, adaptive MOOC modules on environmental protection technology in Russia, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh universities. It is to increase their capacity to continually modernize and enhance the quality and relevance of education of students to the global market. Also, the project will spread and promote awareness in the partner countries related to the European Union policies and best practices of energy efficiency and climate change approach towards environmental and energy 2020 targets. Project 𝓵𝓪 will consolidate a variety of diverse activities in education quality improvement by delivering extensive distance education programs and a capacity building framework. It will establish an associated network of experts and institutions to continue the knowledge sharing among partner universities.
Once again, we reached 400 participants for the third time before we start the webinar, and this goes to 500 to 600 while we are doing so. You have a 400 audience, Nina. I know you very well, but I think you deserve a formal or official introduction. So I will invite Anupama, one of our good friends. So she will do the formal introduction of Dr. Nina. Yeah, Anupama. Anupama, your mic is off.
Sorry for that, and thank you, sir. So it is my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker for the day, Dr. Nina Danilina. Dr. Nina is the head of the Department of Urban Planning at the Moscow State University of Civil Engineering in Russia. She is also the head of the Master's and Postgraduate programs in Urban Studies at Moscow University. She received her PhD in 2012 and her degree of Doctor of Science in Urban Studies in 2019. Dr. Nina is the project manager of Erasmus Plus Capacity 𝓵𝓪 project in Moscow University. She is also the head of Climate Change and Urban Planning European Experience 𝓔𝓷𝓮𝓻 Monet project. To name a few of her areas of expertise include settlements related sustainable development issues, adaptation of cities to climate change, green mobility, and linear green public spaces on city streets. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for my introduction.
Nina and I, we work together and we do a lot of research related to building, green building and urban infrastructure. So there are a lot of things happening between Russia and especially Moscow and Sri Lanka. I think without wasting much time, I can hand over the table to you. But before that, there are a few reminders I need to pass to the attendees. If you have any questions while Dr. Nina is presenting her the presentation, you will be able to use Q&A and you can type your questions. And at the end of the at the end of Nina's presentation, we'll be able to take them up and we can have a very fruitful discussion. And don't forget, like yesterday, we have a small survey form attached with this, the same survey form. Those who have not filled the survey form yesterday, please take a few minutes while Nina is presenting. You can spend few minutes with this with this online survey form that is on plastic waste and how the plastic, your perception on this particular plastic waste. So that is there in your messages now. So please take few minutes to fill and send your perception to us. So that will be useful for us to work out on plastic waste and plastic waste related research in the future. So with that two announcements, I will hand it over the floor to Nina. It's up to you. The forum is yours. Yes.
Yes. I think that I can start, but I can't find my presentation in a screen demonstration. I don't know what is the problem. Very silly problem, but how I can do it?
Nina, you can minimize your Zoom and see whether you'll be able to find that.
Make him audio.
I don't see in this screen demonstration my presentation how I can demonstrate my screen. Oh, here.
Right. Yes.
Is it okay? Okay. I do it. So I can start.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here today. And good evening and good afternoon for all participants that are now with us. My name is Nina Danilina and I'm from Moscow. I'm working in educational area, so I'm the head of my department and I'm responsible to prepare students that will know something about climate change in urban planning. And I think that this is the aim of my lecture today, to make you also know something about it if you don't know. But I'm sure that you know, that's why you are here and you are interested in this topic. And I hope that we will have a good time together. Also, we have a lot of different scientific researches on our department with my colleagues and with my students and with my PhD students. So I collect all this experience and I'm ready to share it with you today. And I want to focus my attention today on three topics. The first one, it is of course climate change, because climate change, it is the topic of our Erasmus Plus back project. And now we do the dissemination of the results of this project. And it was very interesting to start this topic 3 years ago, and now we are at the end of this way, and we have some results that I want to share with you. Another topic that I want to present for you is our vision of urban sustainability. According to the 11th goal of sustainability, and according to the 4th goal as quality of education, we compare these topics in one and address them to the climate change too. And one more topic that was the result of the work on these 3 years in BEC project, it is the topic of people's behavior, of population behavior according to the climate change and urban sustainability. The result is that this third topic about concerning people is one of the key issues in understanding what is happening now in our world. And if people won't understand what has happened, no result it will be in our educational and scientific work. That's why people become this key issue. So I unite all these three topics in one and have some results that I want to show you today. So let's start with the first topic on climate change. And very shortly, I will present you the main results and very interesting facts that we face in our work on these 3 years. The first one, it is that the processes of climate change are going on even if we don't know about it. Maybe it's some kind of surprise for you, because I am sure that all our audience know about climate change and this impact, but it's not all people know about it. Especially we face this problem in Russia. Between my students, it was very surprised for me 3 years ago. And a lot of people in Russia don't believe in climate change, and they live in silence and do nothing to adapt or to this climate change, or to have some special behavior addressed to this problem. But the problem is, and it's official statistic, that the average global surface temperature on the earth and water was more than 13 degrees Celsius, and it become higher from year to year, and it is higher than it was in 20th century. But it is very wrong to think that it is the problem only of our existing centuries, of our nowadays. This problem of climate change is going from the beginning, from the start of the Earth life, and these years before, people become their history, and after this process was, and there was a lot of ice periods, not only one, and as scientists said for us, it will be ice periods too. But now we are living in the period of temperature rising, and we don't have enough information to make any prognosis on the climate, because the statistics was started only in 19th century, and if you will compare this time with all time of our Earth existence, it's quite not a big period. And one more fact that we should take into account when we are speaking about climate change, that human activity, our anthropogenic life and our anthropogenic impact is not the main cause of climate change, but it accelerates and worsens the conditions of life in present, and it will be in future too. As it is climate change, it is a natural process, it is going on, and if we will hear what biologists say, we should understand that people in their life can adapt to this climate change easily, but our human activities is that reason that don't allow us to do it so easy that it can be, because our activities make this climate change more quickly, and the main reason that it has a very bad impact on our existence, life being, on our environment, and our health even too. Maybe COVID pandemic, these 2 years, it's one of these impacts. So when we are speaking about these two facts, we should speak about the third fact, that different regions in the world face different climate change impact. And here on this slide, you can see very famous picture from fourth assessment report that gives us a lot of information about climate change and statistics and official data that we can use in our world. But now today we are speaking about international and my national experience, and we should understand that this experience is quite different. And also we should take in account that every region in that case meets their own impacts of climate change, but we all over the world, we are united by one idea: how to provide comfort and safe conditions of our life being nowadays, and what is very important in the future for our children and for our future generation. So what is about differences and similarities? First of all, I want to speak about differences in this climate change impact in different regions of the world. So my country, Russia, and you can see this huge territory on your screen. In orange circles, this is the territories that where people have their settlements, and the territory outside these orange circles, this is empty territory, and it is empty because of the very, very hard climate conditions. So in this case, let's firstly evaluate our climate conditions. And you can see also on the slide that we have very huge range of these temperatures in different parts of our country. And this range of average annual temperature in some parts of Russia can be more than 30 degrees by Celsius. And if we are speaking about the warmest period in our climate, it's of course July, and the average temperature, it is not more than 15 degrees. And if we are speaking about the cold period, it is in minus value. So what is the impact of climate change in Russia? It's positive. We should understand this, and in Russia, all people really don't feel these climate change impacts, negative climate change impacts. They don't understand what is this, and more that I can say that we expect these positive impacts to be very good for our country. For example, in Arctic, on the north of the country, if the heating season will be reduced by 2 or 3 degrees on Celsius, as a result of this climate change, rising temperature, it will have very good impact on energy consumption, and the northern border of agriculture will shift to the north, and it will increase the area of agricultural land, especially in Western Siberia and the Urals. It is this territory that is empty now. So, as the result of climate change, impact of this rising temperature, we have an opportunity to use the territory of our country in more wider scale. Of course, it is good for us. Another situation is in Europe, and you can see that the average July temperatures as the warmest period in the year quite higher than in Russia, and they range from 20 to 28 degrees on Celsius. And the average temperature in January, as in the most cold period, it is in plus degrees, and it's quite comfortable for people to live. Also, Europe have two different climate types, marine and continental, and they have some difference, but I should say that both of it quite comfortable to live in. But the climate, the more higher the temperature is, the more negative impacts territory of these countries faces. So in the southern and central Europe, we can see more frequent heat waves, forest fires, and droughts. And also in Mediterranean area is becoming more drier, making it even more vulnerable to drought and wildfires. Also, no, in Northern Europe is also problems according to the different weather anomalies, and every day and every year we can see on the screen of our TV these problems that they really are. And what is the interesting fact that urban areas where 4 out of 5 Europeans now live are exposed to heat waves, flooding, and rising sea levels. And this is really very negative impact of climate change. And the third region that I want to show you and allow you to compare different kinds of this climate change impact, it of course Asia region, and here there's some information on climate for our partners in BEC project, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. And you can see that the climate is quite hot, especially if we will compare these average temperatures with Russia and even if with Europe. And the picture of this climate temperatures is going to red colors, not to violet colors as it was in Russia. And the more high the temperature is, the more negative impacts this territory have. When I was on BEC meetings in Sri Lanka, I can see it by my eyes that these problems are, and they all concerning some water and different problems with water. And it is very pity that these problems are, but we should know about it. So if you will compare these pictures when I was speaking about different climate conditions in different regions, you can see that these regions quite different. But we have also similarities that can unite us in trying to solve the problem of climate change. Let's talk about the similarities. For example, the first one, it is such climate impact as droughts. And you can see 3 examples from these 3 regions. Leipzig, Germany, Krasnodar, it's a city in Russia, and Sri Lanka. And in different ages, in different years, it is one problem of this drought that is caused by different natural and anthropogenic activities of people. The problem is common for all these cities, and no matter where this city, every city is located. Another similar example of this climate change impact, negative impact, it's a pity that it's negative. It's of course floods and the storms, any weather conditions that and disasters that were water related. So we can see flood in Prague, and it was quite hard for them to live in such conditions. In our country, these floods are also can be every spring, but it's also not very comfortable situation for people. You can see and evaluate it on this picture. And of course, Sri Lanka, it's we all remember this what the tsunami disaster that was maybe long ago, but it was, and it's alive in our memory. Of course, it was very, very harmful for people and for nature. But the main idea is that no matter where these cities are located, in Siberia, in Europe, or in Asia, we all are facing one problem, and that's why we have to find a united solution how to increase our resilience to this question too. And one more also similarities, maybe in Sri Lanka there is no snow. I hope that you won't see snow, you'll never will see snow in your country. I hope it will be. I hope it will be. But in Roma, in Italy, the snow was, and it is not a usual weather for Roma. And but we can see on this picture that it was. In Sri Lanka, not snow, but very heavy rain. And in our country, the situation is quite funny. On one picture, on one photo, you can see Moscow with a lot of snow on our streets. We have snow in winter, but not in such a quantity. It's also unusual for us. But the next photo, you can see people on the beach of the Northern Sea, and it is quite an unusual situation for them to have such a kind of rest on the beach near the very, very cold ocean. But it is, and it's also quite unusual. So we change our places in this climate, and in Moscow it's very cold, and in Siberia it is quite hot for them. It's a good example how climate is changing, and we are facing these processes. And when I was on the conference in Kyrgyzstan, it was some specialists from climate change department, and they said for us that this climate change process will be more quickly in years. So in our future, we will face it in more and more active ways. We will wait for them, and we should be prepared to face these problems. So if we are speaking about climate and this climate problem, and we understand that these processes are going on, we should think about how to make some activities of this response to this climate change. And of course, international experience give us the answer to this question. In international experience, we have two types of activities how to do this response. And one of them, it is adaptation, and another is mitigation. I take the definition of these terms from official NASA site, because I like how they describe the difference between two types of activities. This difference is really is very real. If we are speaking about adaptation, it is adapting to life in a changing climate, and it involves adjusting to actual or expected future climate. And the goal of this is to reduce our vulnerability to the harmful effects. From other side, we are speaking about mitigation as also reducing climate change, but in another way, because the goal of mitigation is to avoid significant human interference with the climate system. From one side, it is avoid. From another side, it is to work with the existing situation, trying to make this adaptation. And if we are speaking about urban planning policy and practice, we are speaking about different kinds of activities on adaptation and mitigation. But when we were exploring this international experience, we understand that it is not right to make these activities in both ways, adaptation and mitigation. When we are speaking about climate change, we should take into account this third apart as people's behavior, and only combined pure policy on combine these two kinds of activities can make this response to climate change existing needs and needs of future generations. So we have such model of as climate change, people's behavior, and urban planning and design, and it will work only if all these three parts will be working together in one system. Because if people don't know about nothing about climate change, and if people don't know about urban planning and the aims of this urban planning, all that we will do will not have the result. It is very interesting fact. Maybe it's very clear to understand that the result will be, but it's not so easier to understand for people. When these 3 years we were speaking with different stakeholders and with different people in different countries on different conferences, and we understand that there are three different scenarios of population behavior according to the climate change impact. The first one is the worst, when people don't even know or believe in climate change impacts. They even don't know about it, or they do that, or they think that there is no this climate change impact, and of course it is very, very bad, has very bad result. And maybe this very negative picture you can see on the slide. The first lecture was devoted to this question, and I think that our first lecturer said a lot of information about it. I'm sure that you were listening about this problem. It's really a problem. The scenario 2, it is when people, it is maybe even the worst scenario that can be, when people know about climate change, but they do nothing to make this contribution to mitigation or adaptation to climate change impact. It's also very widespread scenario, especially in Russia. It is very pity that it is so. And it underlines the idea that we need to implement this topic in our educational process and to speak with people on this problem. And then the third scenario is the best scenario that it is when people understand, and even if people face with climate change impact and support policies to reduce them. And when I was searching for the good example how it could be, of course, I have in my mind our professor 𝓔𝓷𝓸𝓀 with his project that we, I think I am following in Facebook concerning nature and protecting nature. His videos, excellent video about Sri Lanka's nature, and of course we understand how important it is for existing generation, and it will be very important for future too. I also have some experience in implementing of this idea of climate change in our Russian life, that especially in the taking in my mind the fact that people don't believe in climate change because and they never faced these negative impacts by themselves. This is our latest experience. It was not more than 2 weeks ago in Siberia. It is Tomsk city. It is Tomsk Polytechnical University, where it was conference, also international project, devoted to the cooperation of different kinds of stakeholders to make the discussion of the problem of public space use. And when we do this discussion, we were speaking about climate change too, because if Tomsk is in Siberia and big period of their year it is quite cold, but now the temperature is rising and people want to spend more time outside, and that's why it's the need to develop public spaces on city streets. And in this Tomsk University, group of students have very interesting project as nature lab. They have 3 streets. The authorities allow them to use the space of these 3 streets to implement different technologies, urban technologies on them. And here it was workshop that was devoted to the question of having this discussion between population, business, students, and professors. As I am, you can see me on this photo too. And we have this discussion about the way how to do it in the right way, taking into account climate change too, in this case of rising temperatures. But there are a lot of problems that the students from this university are facing, and one of them is on this also on this slide. The problem is that people stole these plants from this public space. Maybe it's maybe you will be some surprise of why they do it, but they do it, and it is very really silly fact that make this problem of development of these public spaces too. But it was very interesting experience to participate and to disseminate this idea of climate change. And I should say that people who are in the room on this photo, they don't understand the importance of climate change impact, and they were really interested and surprised by this topic when I was speaking about. But it was my deal in this conference. And when we are speaking with people, we face another problem. We understand that people, the students, for example, in Tomsk, they can do something on the territory of these streets, but if we will have no official urban policy that will be addressed to climate change, it will be only some dotted activities, and there is no, it will be not have this mass effect that it should be. This idea lays on the base of our research of urban planning policies and how it is done in the world. And we found that no matter what region is, we all have similarities in this urban planning policy organizing process. We all have national level when we have strategies how to do this national adaptation to climate change. Then it is a regional level, and then it's city level. And on every level, we have special documents that address us to the problem of climate change. And here on this slide, you can see these 3 documents from Sri Lanka and Russia and example of Germany. You can see they have quite different view, but the idea and the aim of all the documents is quite similar. How to do this adaptation and mitigation of country territories to climate change impact. And all this information on urban planning policy, I should underline that it's official documents. They lay in the base of development of different urban areas design for different functional zones in the city, different kinds of design. But if they will base if they will be based on these official documents, it will be quite right to make right solutions that will provide this response to this problem. And only if this system, this official system will work, we will go to the result of this adaptation and mitigation. The next slide, it is also about official documents. It is the examples of city level for different, for Russia and for Europe. You can see the fragment of Moscow master plan, where you can see that all territories with that should be protected and or with special land use are marked, and it helps urban planners to provide the right land use when we are speaking about development of different territories in the city. And also the example of Vancouver City from Canada, you can see that the idea is the same. They mark these territories that would be protected and territories with special land use. And even these cards, these maps have different view. The idea of these maps is quite similar. And when we found this information, it lays as the base in our research project that we do with our colleagues and students, and we start in autumn of 2020 year. And now I can show you some results. The object of our research was one of the regions of our country is Krasnodar region. It is the most warm. It is the warmest region in our country with the best conditions, climate conditions for people life being. But you can see that it's a big territory. It is, you can see this information on this slide. It's a big territory with a big quantity of population, but not very big density of this population. And you can see that on such huge territory, there is only 3 big cities, more than 1,000, more than, you can see them on the green colors. And there is no many cities the whole settlement systems, the whole settlement system. This fact was very surprising for us, because on the territory of central region in Moscow, this density of population is much more bigger. And we try our best to understand why people don't live in the region with the best climate conditions. And it was our aim to understand what is the existing situation is, but also taking into account this climate change adaptation activities that we found in our international experience. And here you can see these evaluation results on different aspects, and 2 photos of different cities of this region. One is the city 𝓵𝓷𝓮𝓭 city, and another is Sochi. I think that if you never heard 𝓵𝓷𝓮𝓭 city, maybe about Sochi you heard. It was the city where Olympic Games were some years ago, and you can see maybe by your eyes, if you will compare these photos, different conditions of people's life. In one case it's the common city, and in another it's a big city with big money flows that were done at the period of Olympic Games. And this difference between these territories is, of course, inequity of these conditions for people is, of course, very bad. But the evaluation results, as you can see also on this slide, are also not very good. And the most pretty thing that this is the best climate in Russia, the most the warmest region in our country, but there are a lot of different problems concerning environment, engineering support, transport, conditions of residential areas, public space, land use, engineering, energy efficiency, rational use of different kinds of resources. It was very not very good result, but we should also think that if we will give these results to the authorities of this region, maybe it will they will take into account our results of our research, because now they are on the stage of redeveloping of official urban documents. And we have the hope in our minds that we will, doing this research, we will have this opportunity to implement this climate change issue to these documents too. For example, you can see one of the results that in such good climate conditions, there is no any bicycle infrastructure in more than in 90% of cities. Only in big cities as Sochi, in the well-developed cities as Sochi, it is, but it is also very rare and also only in touristic zones. And there are also very interesting fact that in such not very big cities with pedestrian access to all infrastructure, there are a lot of cars. People use cars very frequently in their life, and this level of modernization can be compared with Moscow level. And Moscow is the capital of the city and very big of our country, and very big city. It was also very surprised fact for us. And when we were searching the reason of it, we understand that there is no pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure in these cities. And you can see this situation on the 𝓵𝓷𝓻𝓿 city photo, and it's really quite pity. Then we addressing to the experience of Vancouver, Canada, and not only Vancouver, but a lot of different countries all over the world. We were analyzing the natural and semi-natural city framework on the example of Krasnodar city. And Krasnodar city, it is the central city of this region. And also you can see the results on this slides, existing situation and project suggestions of our students, how to make this existing situation more better. And some photos how it is now. It's quite green city with a lot of green public spaces, but they are not well organized. And our students try their best also to make their suggestions how to protect this nature, not to do a lot of activities on accomplishment with any buildings or something like that, but to protect and to develop this natural and semi-natural framework as it is on the good examples of, for example, Europe. And here also on this slide, you can see this criteria that we use when we do this evaluation of existing situation, and then when we were developing our project suggestions. And we use such criteria as continuity, the area of these green areas for every person in the city, estimated number of one-time visitors, and of course access time to this framework for citizens. This was our attempt to decrease the number of cars in the city by developing this pedestrian and bicycles infrastructure. But it was only the part of this research project, and I want to show you one more about this city. This part of the project was devoted to the role of urban planners when we are speaking about urban planning and developing design solutions of residential areas. As I'm responsible and I'm working with the future urban planning professionals, it was very important for me to show them their role in this process. It is very pity that in most cases they don't understand their responsibility, their professional responsibility. And this project, this research that I will show you now, I show you now, it is one of the good examples what is this role of urban planners who know something about climate change and other global challenges, and then how they can use it in their professional life. And this is to existing residential areas also in Krasnodar city. One is named on the red color German village area, and this project was developed with the participants of European investors. And one project is also existing residential areas that was developed 10 years ago, when people in Russia only maybe heard about the problem of climate change and compatibility. And you can see also some criteria that we use to compare and to evaluate these two territories. And maybe you can see and evaluate by your eyes on this slide that there is some difference in these planning solutions, how the buildings are located. On the green frame, it's quite unorganized building location, and on the red inside the red frame we can see more organized way of this building location. But I should say that these two residential areas have a lot of similarities, and they can be really compared between each other. Maybe the you can see also in this criteria the population and the density of this population, and you can see that if we will compare this rolled residential area solution and this new as German village residential area solution, you can see that German village is more comfortable than the common residential quarter is. And you can pay your attention to the last criteria in my table as payback period. We count it as the costs of the smallest apartments that people can buy on these residential areas, divided to the average money that people have in month when they are working. And you can see that the difference between these numbers, it is, and the German village, of course, more expensive than the common residential quota, but this difference is not very big. And it also shows that people don't understand the difference between these two areas, and they don't even understand what is compatibility and why one of these residential areas is really better than another. To evaluate this situation, it was only the first analysis, and then we use the concept of biosphere compatibility that is developed now by the by our Dr. Vyacheslav Ilyachov. He is a doctor and he is professor and he is academic very famous in our country, and he now is very old, but he is still working in our university. And this is his concept that now we use with our students to make this objective evaluation of these livable conditions for different residential zones. And the base of these concepts lay some principles, as this concept take in account people demands. So we understand that people live on the territory and they do have access to every infrastructure object, to any infrastructure that they need in their life. From other side, if people have their demands, cities should provide the supply, and the supply is this infrastructure that should be located on the territory of this residential area. If we are speaking about the development oriented on the public transport and pedestrian mobility, we should understand that all this infrastructure should be located on the territory of these residential areas or in pedestrian access from this area. And it is a very important thing to evaluate: is this situation quite right? And if all people who live on this territory really have this access to all needed infrastructure. And one more principle that lays in this concept, that all these people's demand and all this city supply that should be on this territory should be done with a harmony with nature. And in this concept, we have 7 different functions: residence, leisure, authorities, charity, knowledge, creativity, and nature. And for every function, we have special types of city infrastructure. And when we evaluate the existence and the access to any type of infrastructure, we have the result that you see on this slide. This result shows us the existing situation with using this concept on for the research territory, for our area of research. And you can see here this comparison of this implementing this method for German village area and for common residential quota. And you can see by your eyes that the difference is. And if we will see on German village as the most modern residential area, that there is this connection with nature, and people, urban planners, were thinking about creating this natural and semi-natural framework on the territory of this residential area. We can see that on more older residential quota, there is no this connection, and it is 0 value. And of course, it is very pity. Also, this is the difference in conditions of life in this residence building and access to the different kinds of leisure infrastructure. There is no, very interesting that there is no any charity objects on the territory of these residential areas. But I should say that in Soviet period, it was quite normal to include these charity objects on the inside these residential areas, and it is very pity that now this practice is going is not going on. Also, you can see the problem in this older residential quarter with the knowledge and with access to schools and kindergartens and different kinds of educational objects. And in green, in German village, as a modern example, this problem is not very big, but it's also not hundreds of persons. And the only similarity that we see, it's in authorities, it's in official infrastructure as banks, policy, and other official objects and offices. It is maybe not 100%, but it is. So this result shows us this difference between different approaches to residential area design. And my students were really very surprised by this result, because when they start their work, it seems to them that the conditions of life in these two residential quarters are quite similar. Maybe one more new and one more older, but we were discussing the question that no matter what is the age of the quarter, the more important is the quality of life on this territory. And maybe to go out from these scientific things, I should show you some photos from open sources to show you this difference between these planning solutions and this, and you can see and evaluate it by your eyes what is this difference between these planning solutions. I hope that you see this difference and you understand what I'm speaking about. It was a good experience for my students to understand that they are really responsible for their projects, student projects, for their researches. And I hope that now they will use this knowledge in their professional life when they will go out from the university. So, and the last slide, it's some of my conclusions that I should do on the topic that I was speaking about. This is the first one. It is that the impact of climate change is, and we should take in account it in our professional life, and not only in our professional life, but in our common life too. And I hope that this knowledge will be disseminated more and more in time, because I see this process of disseminating of this knowledge by myself during these 3 years that I am in the back project. And maybe I'm very glad that I have this opportunity to disseminate this European experience and experience of Sri Lanka visit between our students. The second thing that it is necessary to rethink the process of adapting urban environment to this global change in the framework of the implementation of different urban development activities. If we will include this climate change issue in our official urban documents, it will help us to get the result on this urban resilience in more fast way. But we should also understand that the main question is not only to implement this in official documents. The main aim is to provide right people's or population behavior, climate change related behavior. If people will understand for what we do it, it will work. That's why our sustainable design solutions should take in account not only existing situation, and it will be the most special feature that will if we will compare different solutions, that if this solution is going only on the existing situation, it's not right. If we will see in this solution some impact in future, we will understand that we do it in the right way. That's why this future will also become very, very important issue. And as for me, as I'm a teacher, as I'm a researcher, of course, I think that only if we will implement this topic in our educational and scientific activities, and if we will involve people in our activities, as we do maybe it today, having these 6 lectures for you from different specialists from different areas of life, but we're all are united by this idea of climate change. And I try my best also to share my experience that will help us to achieve this goal of the sustainability and climate change and life on Earth, and also quality of our existing education addressed to our future generations too. So it was my last slide, and thank you for your attention. And if you have some interest in this field of urban planning and climate change and people behavior, you have any ideas how to make researches, or you're interested in this topic, you can contact me without any hesitation. And I think that maybe we will have in some interesting projects how to implement this knowledge in our existing century and our existing time. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, I will try my best to answer them immediately.
Thanks, Ina. Thank you very much. It's a wonderful presentation, and taking people joining to the webinar is our responsibility, but keeping them from the start to the end is your responsibility. Congratulations, you managed to keep the same audience which was there in the beginning till the end of the presentation. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Nina, I mean, I always say the knowledge you can easily get it from. I mean, even you can log in, you can get you can download it from the phone. So the knowledge is there inside the phone. But the sharing the experience, I mean, that matters a lot. I mean, this is what we are doing with these knowledge sharing experiences. So the Russian experience on climate change is really, really valid to Sri Lanka and all over the country. I mean, whoever is really keen on doing things on climate change, I mean, your experience will be definitely valuable. But it's interesting to hear that this climate change was taken, some has taken positively in Russia. Of course, it should be, because your climate is very, 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 very sophisticated. It's below zero and most of the time of the year. So yes, I mean, it's positive. It can be positively taken for a short period of time, but when you think about the about a long period, especially let's say 10-15 years down the line, we all have to be very, very careful on what we are doing. Now the biggest and the complicated task, you know, handling the discussion. But we are going to do a small change today, Nina, with your permission. So we thought like we are going to give 1 or 2 attendees to raise their questions live. So if they really have a question, I mean, with your permission, so if that particular question you feel that this is really relevant to the topic, you can raise your hand, and we will be giving you a very small. Don't take it much time to raise the question, because I want Nina. I want to give Nina to answer the question, than letting her question from our end. So we will love to see one or two, not in big numbers, but one or two. I want the organizers. I mean, this is a request from my organizing committee. So they feel like every year every time we ask a question, so why not we give that particular opportunity to the attendees to ask one or two questions from our distinguished invited today, Professor Nina, Dr. Nina. So well, it's very complicated. I said it's complicated because I'm getting a lot of questions because this is very timely selected topic, and everybody concerned on climate change, energy efficiency, and also the sustainability, mainly because of the COVID lockdown. I mean, we all packed in a location, and we saw how this particular environment is responding and recovering in a very short period of time due to COVID lockdown in China and Sri Lanka. Everywhere we can see the nature is picking up back, and humans started feeling the damage we did in the recent past. So it's a good time for us to talk about this particular matter. But before moving to the questions, I have a kind request. I was really love to hear about this nature lab. Can I know how this particular nature lab mix with your academic activities at your university, or in your city, or with your people? Can you just share your experience? Because I really felt like we should start this particular thing in Sri Lanka as well.
Yes, this nature lab in Tomsk was a very interesting experience, even for me, because I was very surprised that in Siberia, I was here 2 weeks ago. It was quite cold. They have quite cold summer, but this really very interesting project. So the group of students, that active students, they try their best to have this connection with authorities, and they try their best to find this connection with population, with neighborhoods, and they have 3 streets, the territory of these 3 streets, to implement different technologies from different kinds of stakeholders. It was a very big surprise for me that they can do it, because when we were in Moscow, we were discussing the questions of how we can do it. We have land use, we have different restrictions, we have different authorities and police. And it was really surprised when these active students, they do it. They do accomplishment of this street, and they do it because they understand that it is very important for not only for city, it's for all for their university, but for city. And one more interesting fact, that they are not urban planners. They are economists and something like engineers. But what is very good in urban planning, that all information you can see by your eyes, because these streets, this pedestrian way, different kinds of accomplishment, it is all is done for people, and they understand it. They don't know anything about urban planning, but they understand what for this all they do. Very interesting experience, and they are alive. They are open for every technologies and for every ideas. And the most interesting thing that a lot of people offer them their technologies in free way, without no money. In this project there is no money, really no money, zero money, only their activity and only their wish to make something good for their city. because some business gives them these plants, another business give as a present, give them these benches for this street. Very interesting process, and how they do it, it's amazing. It was amazing. And on this meeting, we gathered together to have this discussion what they want to do with this public space. And really, people, children, and business, and students, and professors, we all gathered together to discuss the situation. Very interesting projects. I wish any institute and university to have such a lab in their structure. But I think it's
and you're going to help us. If you're going to start it, you're going to help us.
Of course, maybe I will help you and you will help me, because it's quite different to maybe the idea is quite simple. Together to think about, to make. It is really very simple, but when we are speaking about it, but it's quite different. Together to have these ideas, to implement them, because I was, when it was first election 2 days ago, it was a quite right idea of our lecture: money. It's very pity that it's all money. Big money or small money, no matter, but it's money and there is no money. It's a big problem with this money. But this experience of these Tomsk students shows us that it is also possible. Very interesting project.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think you will be able to jointly start one in Sri Lanka soon. But I forgot to tell you, I'm going to sue you, because you have used one of my photo without my permission. Okay, Nina, this is a news to me as well. One, I think he's from Russia, and he tells Russian government proposed banning the use of plastic packaging, plastic straws, and earstrings. How this is going to be affected to the business world? So that is the question. So actually, that was a news to me, because I know that Russian government is going to ban. Sri Lanka was in the same line. We are going to ban the single-use plastic. So it's good to hear that Russian is also trying to do the same. So how this is going to affect the business community, and how they are going to tackle this problem?
It's really a problem when we are speaking about not even plastic or all reuse of any resources. It is also quite expensive, because it's not very good implemented in our business. Only very rich companies can allow them to use these technologies. But that's why it's a very big problem. But I want to tell you about another situation. I think that my experience, that I think will show you our attitude to all question of this reuse and rational use and effective technologies. Not far this winter, not very long ago, I was as an expert on one building construction. It is very in the center of Moscow, very amazing public object, and it is constructed by our European colleagues from Slovenia, and they try their best to make this building the most effective building in Moscow. But when this main engineer was talking about, yes, we use reuse of water, reuse of air, heating, everything is reused, he said to us, it's not impossible in your country. Do you see what is the weather in winter in your country? It's impossible even to live. How you live here, it's very cold. And what I'm speaking about any reuse, you should spend a lot of money to heating and to use different resources, and they are really very expensive. That's why
and the clothing.
Cooling too, and that's why I think it shows the real situation in Russia. We are only on the starting of understanding of these energy and rational use technologies, but we are. And we try our best to implement them, but the special thing that we need another technologies. We, according to this to our climate, we need another technologies that are used in countries with more warmer climate than in Russia. But in this case, if we will have this positive climate impact, I think maybe we have an opportunity to use widespread and very effective technologies. But I think that it's our future. Very pity, but we are waiting for this for this time when these questions of plastic reuse or effectiveness and rational resources will be really not on words relevant for us, but in actions and in money.
Your presentation has basically opened up another dimension of this particular climate change. There's another guy from Singapore. There's a big write-up, but I will pick his question. The question is, why all these media appeal fear and see this climate change as a problem? So now he's also thinking the same way, whether this climate change is a real problem. Any comment from your end?
Climate change is very interesting topic. Is it problem or not? Is it positive or negative? Should we do anything, or it's no need to do anything? Very discussable questions, but they are. And I think that more we will discuss it, more solutions and maybe more information in my minds, in our minds, we will have to get this right question, response to this really global change.
Well, there's another before that. Actually, from the very first day, people was asking whether they are allowed to ask questions. So we today decided to give the option for them to ask questions, but I hardly see any person who wants to really ask it live. But there are people who are continuously typing their questions in the Q&A and the chat. And you can, Nina, while you are answering the questions, you can go through your chat, and you are getting a lot of compliments from the participants saying you're wonderful and you have done excellent job. Well, another debatable question, Nina. I will read the question in the same way as it is in the Q&A, which is more of a problem for global warming. Let me give this with the phrases. Which is more of a problem for global warming, population growth or industrial growth?
Oh,
it is purely political, I know, but what is your opinion?
Yes, it's. I can tell you only my opinion, but I think that my opinion also will be very will take into account the peculiarities of our country, because all industry big. For example, in Moscow there is no industry. That's why for Moscow the most important question it is people behavior. It's the main problem. But if we will go to some cities in Moscow with a very heavy industry, it's another topic for another lecture about how people live in such conditions. It's awful. I should say you that the climate change impact for people who live in such cities where the industry is the main source of all this pollution, it's quite another question. That's why I also can't give you the clear answer on what is more important. But for me, as I live in Moscow, as I am working with people, as I see this problem with people, I think that the more people will know about climate change, the more they will implement it in their professional life and their professional activities, the more result, the more response we will give. That's why my answer is people.
Okay, people will create the industry as well. So definitely the main push will be the people. Well, Sri Lanka recently, Nina, we took a very debatable decision to stop these chemical fertilizers, and we went to biofertilizers. So, I mean, our people have very much, concern on this particular decision, and everybody think on this matter over and over. Beyond all, I think your presentation has created the curiosity on your climate. So the question is, I know this particular question will not be able to directly answered by you. This is not really going with your profession, but with your experience, what they say is, the question is how the winter season, especially the snowfall, affect the soil condition and the agricultural production, especially the crop production. You have any experience on this? At least your home garden?
No, of course, I'm not working in agriculture, but I should say that information that I have, that because it's our world. If there are a lot of snow, it's good for agriculture because it's water, and it's good conditions to the plants to grow up in the right way in the summer. If in last year it was a winter in Moscow without any snow. It was European. It was a very warm winter, but it has very bad impact in summer when the plants does not have this water to grow up. That's why I think what is the idea? The more stability and resilience is in the world, the more good it is for our nature, because our nature is quite imbalanced. The nature knows better the quality, the number of water and wind and other weather conditions. I think that we should trust it, because any changes, higher temperature, rising temperature, or lowering temperature, it's bad. It has a bad impact on our agriculture. But also, I live in Moscow, and Moscow region, it is not agriculture region. Well, for example, I was speaking about Krasnodar region. It is agriculture. It is really agriculture. It's one of the most active regions where a lot of different activities in this fields are done. And now I'm here in Krasnodar region, and it's very warm. It's really very good weather here, but I don't know the specific features of this question because Russia is very huge, and every region has its own peculiarities. It's
Thanks. Even your presentation, you were talking about this illegal construction. In Sri Lanka also the same. I mean, everywhere we can see illegal construction coming up every day, and even though we try to demolish them and make them legalized, but it's not really practical all the time. So how did you see this particular problem? How this particular illegal construction affect the global warming and the climate change?
Dear Professor Angika, it is very, very hard question for me because it's not my.
I know, but I just thought of being as an urban planner, you will give some sense. Well, I'm not going to put you on trouble on that particular question. I know it's really political. Well, we will move to the next question. This is really valid, Nina, because we all, even within the BEC, we are trying to do this dissemination and trying to build up good education cultures in all over the world. So the question is, could you please explain us about the importance of social representation, importance of the social representation in an educational program for behavioral changes with regard to climate change in developing countries? I'm repeating the question. Importance of social representation in educational program for behavioral changes with regard to climate change in developing countries. So they're focused on the developing countries. Social representation.
It's more it's more easy question for me. This social representation also maybe not very big problem. It's a very huge area of to work, because a lot of different activities that can be done for this social representation. Now, as the result of BEC project, for example, we have some textbook on this question, a lot of conferences, and we participate in all these activities that allow us to do this connection with society. I'm reading these comments in the chat, and I think that maybe today this my aim of social representation of this topic is also working. I thank you for all these good comments in chat. I'm very glad that you like my lecture. But this in our country we have some key parameter that is of our authorities. We should involve more than 70% of people in this cooperation when we are speaking about urban development. That's why there are a lot of different methods how to do it. And if we will do it, I think that it is the real thing that can give us and can provide the good result of this climate change response. That's why this social representation, it is quite important thing to do, and to implement, and to be involved, and to be disseminate, and all this number of results that can be in this area.
Thank you. Even though we allowed people to ask questions, well, I saw some of the hand raised, but in a second that was dropped down again. Anyway, last, yeah, there's one from. Well, let him to. We'll allow him to talk. Yeah, Abdul. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. You're free to talk, Abdul.
Okay. Hello. Is my voice clear?
Yeah, Abdul, we can hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, good evening from Indonesia. It's actually late night because this is 11 p.m. right now. So yeah, it is so interesting to hear Dr. Nina and also Dr. 𝓚𝓷𝓸𝓀𝓵. Hello, it's so happy to meet and also joining this session. Really, I'm joining from the first session and until now on. Okay, so in regard with your material before, it's actually regarding also with my subject because I'm studying agricultural engineering. I've ever knowing about how the aquaculture and also aquaponics application in addressing how the urban territories, maybe it's not directly into climate change. It is actually into the food and also the agriculture. But somehow, if we connect that into more longer impacts, it will be also related into climate change. My question is about this one. Have you ever had an experience regarding into aqua or agriculture sector? Maybe I can be specific in aquaponics if you have, or maybe you can just give the opinion how the aquaponics can be implemented in urban area, because somehow it is also one of the answer. As I said before, it is not directly into climate change, but actually this is related into how we can fit people. Also, maybe somehow it is a city plans how we can plan that through aquaponics or aquaculture. Maybe from your sharing before, like the natural lab, it is like I said, this is interesting that people just stole it. That's so I don't know from Dr.Nina, that is interesting thing, but for us maybe, yeah, that's so surprising. But again, we are having some yeah, good deeds that we have to do, like we have to make impacts to our society, our environment. That is what we can do, then we can do that. How the surroundings will affect that, okay, that's just how we can make it into our feedback, so we can make it better in the future. But again, come back into my question, how do you think about the implementation of aquaponics technology in urban area, as well as to yeah, wants to answer the question of with the people in the next decade, 2050, if I'm not wrong, and also as well as your maybe your area of interest regarding that. Maybe you have experience, you can share to us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Abdul. Yeah, Nina, it's up to you.
No, to tell the truth, I don't understand nothing in agriculture. I will repeat that Moscow it's not agriculture region, and we are working with urbanized areas. I think that all technologies that can influence on comfortable and safety and climate change response are good. But when I was listening to, I'm sorry, I can be mistaken, Abdul, I understand that it is one of these active students that maybe can organize their own nature lab, and it is very nice to see that he is interested in this question, and I'm glad that my presentation making progress the thoughts about this question in his area. But I'm very sorry, but I don't know anything about agriculture.
Abdul, just to add a few comments to Nina's statement. Actually, this hydroponic and aquaponic is not that popular in cool climatic conditions because of the cool weather, and they will not be able to do this and even under a greenhouse. So this aquaponic and hydroponic is mainly going with these tropical climatic conditions where you have enough sunlight and also enough humidity level, especially the aquaponic, not the hydroponic. The hydroponic can be tried out at different places, but especially going with aquaponic, you need to very much concern on the microclimatic conditions. We do a lot of research in my lab on this aquaponic. I think we can keep in touch with you, and since you are a person who is very much interested in this particular area from Indonesia, I'm very sure we'll be able to do something together. Abdul, it's an open invitation to you to join with us.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for raising the question openly and accepting our invitation to ask questions. Nina, you have to excuse we have one more. This is the last question. This is the last trouble I'm going to make you. 𝓵𝓪𝓼𝓬𝓪. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name correctly. Ravi, it's over to you. You can ask your question.
Just Nina, I have two concerns and questions about the impact of the unserved urban condition. Most of the developing countries, we have urbans with the condition of the unserved condition. They are mostly in Sri Lanka. We have a lot of area. We have affected every climatic disaster or calamities. We have facing the issues. So then I asked that what are the how the impact unserved urban condition due to the climate change. We expected the measures to overcome issues, and also there are two dimensions: unserved urban condition in the coastal area. There are two conditions: unserved urban condition in the coastal area, and what are the measures we can overcome these issues.
I'm also difficult. It's also very difficult to answer this question, and I will explain why. because all we hear, I think that's the impact of my election. We are thinking about these special things that are interesting in your country. Because, for example, in Russia, of course, in central part of Russia, there is no coastal areas, and every territory has its own peculiarities when we are speaking about this climate change impact. For example, if we are speaking about, maybe I will answer not on your question, but also some interesting information that I want to say you. We have the research concerning not coastal areas, but in Arctic. And there are also not very simple relief, and also this climate and very cold, not even winters, but summers too. And if we will compare this experience of this Arctic with this experience of our southern regions, it will be quite different. And in this case, I think that in any conditions, coastal or plain or Arctic or in other countries, and when I'm hearing these questions, I understand that maybe I was speaking about international experience now, but this experience is so different, and we have so many thoughts about maybe some questions on this climate that is very interesting, and it's a very huge area to not only to discuss but to explore, because all this information that I see from your questions make questions in me, but maybe not answers, but I have questions for you that are interesting, that I'm interested in. It's very pity that we don't have this maybe oral meeting when we can share our experience. I give you my experience, your question give me your experience, and it's really very hard to give you clear question, but I have another thoughts how I can develop my lection to give this information on this very wide international experience. Very interesting process. Really,
this can lead to can lead to a lot of joint research in the future, because with all these questions, you have Gulf, but it is not really meshing with the Sri Lankan coastline. So in the winter, it's like a frozen garden. You have big lakes, but in the winter, those are all frozen gardens. So well, I mean, these different climatic scenarios will let us to join together and start doing a lot of joint work, solving different issues across the world with by sharing our experiences and the knowledge. Nina, once again, thank you very much. That was a really interesting session. I didn't want to bother you anymore. I can see a lot of questions still coming, and there are a lot of wishes for you on your presentation. So it was a fabulous presentation, and thanks to be with us and answering questions. I can see some of raising hands, but unfortunately, sorry, we will keep them for tomorrow. Definitely, we are going to do the same tomorrow as well. And the tomorrow speaker, let me introduce and give a small briefing on her as well. Professor 𝓚𝓷𝓸𝓀𝓚 is from, one of our another good friend, Nina, Huddersfield University from United Kingdom. Actually, she has a better bond to Sri Lanka because she is a born Sri Lankan, but unfortunately, we lost her due to some reason, and she is now living in Huddersfield, UK. So she is going to talk about the impact on climate change on sustainable development. So it is going aligned with Nina's presentation. I'm very sure that will be an equally important presentation, and will be a very interesting presentation like Nina's presentation today. So once again, thank you very much, Nina, and hope to continue the good work. I think we'll be able to see you soon in few months' time. So with that note, we will conclude today's session. So once again, thank you very much for all the participants who was with us from the start to the end, or almost 2 hours with us. So this is not the end of this particular workshop. The BEC allows us to join together. So we are trying to disseminate the knowledge we gathered within this particular beautiful friendship. So tomorrow, Dilanthi is going to speak. So we have another 3 more days. I hope all the attendees who joined today will join tomorrow's presentation. If you feel like you want to share this message across your friends and known contacts, please share the webinar link and the promotional video. So let them to join with the thing. I'm very sure this is an interesting gathering, worldwide and international gathering, where we can, across the globe, we are trying to share our experiences and knowledge. Once again, Nina, thank you very much. And thank you very much for all the participants, and see you tomorrow, and good night.